Alrighty, g'day everybody, it's the Doga! It's time for another AC/DC collection video. This time we're jumping ahead to 1983 with AC/DC's Flick of the Switch album. This video was requested early by Mark's Music, Movies and More from Canada. If you're watching, how you doing, mate? Hope you're doing well in Canada right now. The crazy ass weather here in Australia. It's getting ridiculously hot at this time of year when it's supposed to be cooling down. Anyway, let's move on to Flick of the Switch. Show off all my copies of the album. Let's start, of course, with the original LP from 1983. Right here. And on the back is, of course, the track listing. Definitely my favourite from the Brian Johnson era, this particular album. Got the local EMI credits down here. Okay. Pull out the inner sleeve. This is the inner sleeve. It's a bit moldy and yellowing, unfortunately. Anyway, that's the Australian version of the sleeve. And of course the container here that I need to put back. There we go. The LP itself, you just pull it out of the bag here. 1983 red label, even though it looks orange on this iPad screen, but it's red. Well, sort of reddy orange anyway. Anyway, that is the original Australian release. I have two of these, but unfortunately one of them is cracked and broken, unfortunately. My fault because I thumped on it when I was younger and I ended up having to replace it. And as a result, that broken one now currently sits in my spare room in a giant record frame. Anyway, the next one is the 1987 reissue of the album. Same red label, but with the writing on the top half only. Again, you may have seen this one as well. If you're a regular viewer to the Be a Good Doga YouTube channel, you would have seen my Australian copies of Flick of the Switch. Both the original and the 87 reissue here. As part of the other videos. If you haven't, be sure to check them out elsewhere on the channel. Okay. I believe I've also shown off these next ones as well. These are some international pressings. I think this first one is a Europe pressing, I believe. Not 100% certain. This one's on the Atlantic black and white, or black and cream, I guess. It's a bit thicker than the Australian one, actually. This one here. Okay, put that one there, and I also have a US pressing as well. I'm not so sure if this is an original or what part of the country this one's from. This one has an identical looking insert. Might as well not bother showing the inner sleeve. Either way, this one's a bit faded actually. CRC, I'm not so sure. I don't know a great deal about these labels. Again, apologies if you can't get a good look at the label. Maybe an AC/DC LP expert can tell me exactly what version that is in the comments, unless you're not aware of it yourself. Anyway, I also have the 2003 Remaster on LP as well. And just carefully remove it from this particular one here. Pull it out of the inner sleeve to show off that one as well. Again, 180 grams, much thicker than the other ones. Not the best sounding. These are mostly just bought as collector's items. I don't normally play vinyls actually, I just buy them as collectibles. But I do play the cassettes when I get them, and here are the cassette copies that I have of the album. I don't have the original 1983 Australian cassette, but I do have a good portion of reissues. So we'll start with this one. And of course, you've got the track listing on the spine here. Information about the Dolby B noise reduction, of course. And a better look at the J card, as shown on Australian pressings of the album. Again, EMI logo there. Anyway, this particular one, I'd say this is a reissue from probably 1984 or 1985. I'm not 100% certain. The original does have a different label and is a white case, or cartridge or shell or whatever. And this is the oldest copy I have out of the Australian ones anyway. It's got a blue tape leader as well. Okay, next one. I think this is the first of at least two I have from probably 1986. This is the classic white shell with blue text, mid-late 80s version. I noticed black spindles or frickin' whatever they're called, reels or whatever. Blue tape leader again. So yeah, probably from the beginning of 86 or the end of 85. I also have my mother's copy, and like many of her others, they're unfortunately a bit beat up. Like, this is what happened to my mother's copy. It's still got the black reels as well, I noticed this one. I noticed she did not write her name on this one. Don't think she wrote her name on all of them, actually. So either way, it's essentially the same one again, just a bit more beat up. And I have another one from probably 1987-ish. This one's got a different label design. As you can see, we've got white reels instead of black, and a clear tape leader with blue stripes. And of course, we've got the CBS version with the different album code, and I notice this one's actually got a Dolby logo on it, and on the back, the track listing as well. Again, let's have a better look at inside. I mean, it's pretty much identical as well. The information is pretty much the same. And of course, look at the cassette itself. Again, you may have already seen this if you're a regular viewer of the channel. Okay, the only international cassette I have of the album is German manufactured, but I believe, hang on, have I got these in the right order? Oh no, I'll sort these out later. Yes, German manufactured for the UK market. This particular one here is on the chrome dioxide type 2 cassette. This one's got a different looking J card again. This particular cassette, being a chrome one, doesn't sound very good at all. The information on the inside here says that it's been mastered to that of the bias that's normally used for the ferric or type 1 tape. So apparently when you're supposed to play this back, you're supposed to play it with your settings set to that of type 1 tape. Well, I don't have a multi-tape selector on the stereo that I have, unfortunately. So it doesn't sound all that good compared to the actual ferric mastered tapes. This one being a chrome one, it sounds a bit too bright and doesn't have the bass that the album would normally have on an actual ferric tape. So it still sounds good. It's got plenty of good top end, but it just you know, as I said, it needs the bass. Anyway, I do have 3 copies of the album on CD, so that's only just 3. I managed to pick one of them up yesterday. This is the 1989 CD release of the album. Generic looking back cover, of course. They couldn't really replicate the text of the original back cover with this, unfortunately. It's a fairly substandard looking insert. Basically, the inside just shows the AC/DC logo on the top half of the album cover. That's all that is. And of course, the disc itself, being the typical 1989 Distronics pressed CBS released disc of the time. Definitely a decent sounding CD. Also, we've got the 1995 remaster that was done by the late George Marino. There is a counterfeit of this one getting around, and I believe the counterfeit has a mistake on the disc itself. I think it has the wrong album code. Anyway, having a look inside the booklet, of course, you've got the lyrics as printed on the inside. Actually has a mistake on Badlands, I think. The line's supposed to be, "I'm a man with a fast hand." Hang on, here's the actual lyric printed here. But it should be "a man with a fast hand loving on the last stand," but instead it says something else. "Gotta get me on a last stand now." I'm like, that's not how the song actually goes. I've listened to this album long enough to know how the lyric actually goes. Either way, here's the disc. This is the real deal. The counterfeit version, I believe, has a black EMI logo down the bottom instead of a transparent one. And the album code underneath the Albert's logo mistakenly says 1770912 rather than 47700912 that this one has. That's how I know that I've got the real deal. So be sure to look at those mistakes if you ever come across a counterfeit. Anyway, I also own the 2003 remaster. I think this is a reissue from 2005, Festival Mushroom label. Different to the 2002 reissue. Again, I've had to replace some cases because they got broken over the years. Got your generic booklet inside with all the pictures and stuff. I'm sure everyone's familiar with those. Anyway, that is all the copies I have of this brilliant album from 39 years ago at the time of recording. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and comment down below, especially if you enjoy this album. As I said, this is my favourite from the Brian Johnson era. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, this is the Doga saying have a brilliant day, and we shall see you again.